Now, a majority of art schools out there do not do the best job at preparing their art students for potential art careers. All they really care about is their paycheck. And I know that's no news to any of you out there watching this, but one kind of common topic and question that does come up a lot with both recent graduates and my own students are, do I enter or build my first portfolio as a specialist or a generalist? Now, in my opinion, I've seen both A and B work exceptionally well, and I wouldn't have a firm answer for either or because circumstances change so greatly. So my answer to that question, which is what I'm going to cover in today's video, is going to be a lot more nuanced. So the topics in today's video are going to be specialist versus generalist. I'm going to go over the strengths and weaknesses of both. I'm going to talk about fundamentals. I'm going to talk about skills and timelines to develop those skills. And of course, what you could potentially do to make the right choice for you. With that said, I am Tyler Edlin. I've been an artist and instructor here for 15 years. And let's get into it. And first, I'd just like to thank the sponsor of today's video, of course, Skillshare. Let's go. Alright, so for my first topic today, it's actually a bit more of a disclaimer, and that's you have to get your fundamentals in order before you start worrying about the more portfolio-related aspects of it. So if you are still developing parts of your fundamentals, or you have severe weaknesses in a few, simply ignore a lot of what I'm about to say in the video and go grind those out, right? You shouldn't be worrying about style. You shouldn't worry about specializations. If you can't draw, if you can't shade something, if you don't know how to light, or if your ability to compose a picture is severely lacking, work on that first. And that's essentially what fundamentals are, right? Like, you gotta have an understanding, not a mastery of any of these. That's the thing, right? So understanding what and how to use perspective, being able to utilize line, drawing linearly in any kind of format. Because once you can draw, you can put together shapes. And once you know how to light or shade or add shadows to shapes, now we're building and talking about the fundamental of form. And once we can combine various types of forms, then you can get much more robust and complex pictures, which leads to my next big fundamental is composition, which is essentially how to design any kind of picture. So those are the fundamentals. That's kind of the order I also recommend to tackle them in. And of course, you could add other fundamentals on top of those based on your own interest. Things like anatomy, things like hard surface design. All these elements can kind of go under that umbrella as well, depending on your interests. Of course, I have a few other minor quick tips before we move on, and that is if you're working on your fundamentals and you're studying and doing lots of studies, as I highly recommend, diversify your inspiration. That's meaning, because I see this a lot, is like if you love anime art, if you love stylized art, don't solely just look at that. Look at classically trained masters, look in various categories of art history, look of course at real life. Because if you're just emulating and attempting to emulate various types of stylized art, you're going to learn pretty quick there's a lot of gaps in your knowledge, and you're going to be building a lot of bad habits from that. So diversify, of course, your inspiration. And while on the subject of studies, try to deconstruct things rather than just mindlessly copy. Again, this is something I see frequently enough. Like people just, hey, I copied like 15 different pictures this month. And then I said, what did you learn? Like, I don't know, I was just copying them, right? Don't mindlessly copy. Try to literally break down pictures and illustrations and masterworks and maybe even your own photography and try to understand what's going on. Why does this look appealing to you? Why does this not look appealing to you? What is the lighting doing? What is the lighting not doing? Just try to understand things, more objectively speaking, rather than just like mindlessly copying. And the last point I want to make here is that style should not be used as a crutch. That means if you have a severe lack or gap in your artistic knowledge, don't try to use style as an excuse to not do it. Or if your picture looks a certain way unintentionally and you're running from something, right? Don't blame that on style. Just try to learn what you don't know, fill in the gaps in your training, of course, and try to progressively move forward with that. All right, so number 2 on today's agenda is the skills you need and the general timelines to be proficient with them, because this comes up a lot with students. Do I have to learn 3D? Can I just do drawing? Do I need to be proficient with painting as well if I can draw, right? These are the sort of questions that come up very frequently that tie into this greater subject. Like, what of these core technical skills do I need to be good with to get work? Of course, I'm gonna recommend get good at all these things because it's gonna make you more hireable. It's going to add more value to you as an artist. And of course, it's going to make you more competitive, and nothing looks better if you're looking to attract clients than you being able to sell yourself as a complete package. You can do your own 3D, you could draw very well, you can paint, do color, light, all that stuff, right? You want to be the complete package. Because becoming a professional artist, and I say that with air quotes, in a sense, requires a lot of skills. And this is regardless of your personal path, whether that's illustration, whether that's game art, whether you want to do your own indie comics. A lot of these skills, of course, are all tied together and they're interconnected. And before I elaborate on this topic further, this, of course, is where I want to introduce the sponsor for today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest learning community online, and all of its classes are taught by industry professionals. So whether you're a complete beginner or you're more experienced, Skillshare offers various types of learning pathways to boost your skills to that next tier in all sort of creative disciplines. So for example, many of you out there know about already Marco Bucci, a very popular artist and YouTuber, now offers his expertise on Skillshare as well. He has a great course called Getting Started with Digital Art. And it's absolutely perfect for those looking to really begin their journey and to get some really solid fundamental training in there, as Marco has well over a decade of professional experience. Learning's all about efficiency, and Skillshare offers these learning pathways that are going to guide you through with project-based learning. So of course, beyond getting started at digital painting and illustration, there's very specific courses, stuff that I love to tap into and revisit personally to brush up my own skills. Things like anatomy, of course there are perspective courses, how to draw form and shapes. They have classes on everything. And of course I love to partner with them to let you guys try it for free. We have a special offer with the first 500 people to use the link below the video can get 30 days on the platform to give it a shot. So of course, if you do take me up on that offer, definitely check out Marco's class. I've been loving it. Simply just click the link in the description. So as I was saying, the general skills that you need to become proficient with, right, in order to pursue specializations or generalizations, right? Your ability to draw, your ability to paint, 3D, and number 4 is design sense. You could consider this like your sense of style, your artistic eye, your vision, your artistic vision, however you want to phrase it. But it's something that takes a certain level of maturity and experience to develop very gradually over time, right? Which is why it takes the longest, because you can't really force it and it just comes naturally the more you dive into your craft. Now, drawing compared to painting, which takes longer for most people, right? Of course, there's always going to be exceptions here. Most folks can get decent, of course, with drawing anywhere from like 6 months to a year if you do it regularly. I do find that painting, on the other hand, though, takes a lot longer. This is what I help most of my folks with. This is what we've been trying to do more videos with Fundamental Fridays. Painting is tough. It's tough for a lot of people. There's a lot more subtle complexities to it than drawing. It takes usually folks several years to get really good at it. And then of course there's 3D. I made videos on this in the past. I definitely think it takes the quickest to do. I've seen folks get okay, project ready, okay with 3D as fast as a week. Some folks with a basic Blender tutorial, you could get up and using it within a weekend. So by far that is the shortest skill. So should you use 3D? Yeah, absolutely. It's an awesome, powerful tool that is the fastest to learn. Do you need to learn drawing? Yeah, most studios look for people that can draw pretty adequately. If you can paint them, that is a highly value added bonus. And like I said, do you need to master all these? Absolutely not. Personally, I just skim the surface with 3D. I don't really get into the weeds with it. I've been doing okay. My bread and butter is usually like my painting. Again, I'm like okay at drawing, I'm worse at 3D, right? Like, so if I had to rank my own skills, they're on all different tiers. So from my experience, you don't need to master them all, but being able to use them effectively at the right times, that's of course where I feel the value is. All right, so let's get into the bread and butter now, the advantages and disadvantages of generalists versus specialists, right? So this is assuming, of course, you've got some portfolio pieces underway, you want to boost and improve your portfolio, you understand a majority of those fundamentals, right? So of course, the advantages of being a generalist is that this is where most folks kind of start, right? Because you want to cast the widest net possible. And I know there's cases to be said on both sides of the camps, but personally, I would advise you to go as a generalist overall, because if you're a generalist, this is again assuming anyway it's not really any extra work for you because you understand the fundamentals and you're just putting the fundamentals together to build an awesome portfolio that showcases a variety of your skills, your interests, and of course what kind of problem solving tasks you can do with those fundamentals. So versatility, right? That is largely important with this. And with versatility, again, you can make yourself more marketable to a broader range of projects. I did this for years. It gives me a lot of market flexibility, as that like, okay, one week I can be doing an illustration like a book cover or board game art, and then I can use those same fundamental skills to build up and work on some game art. Because again, a lot of it's interconnected and there's a lot of overlap in terms of what you can do. Because I know when I was starting out, I wanted any job, I wanted any experience that I could get my hands on. So, and again, this is the caveat here, is like as a generalist portfolio, you can have a wide variety of elements and items in it, as long as they're all good. That's the thing. You can have a few different styles, as long as the quality is all there. That's more important than having it all insanely uniform. I do think there is value and a place for that uniformity. But as a generalist, just starting out, I think there's value in just having good, consistent work. Because generally with game art and even animation backgrounds, there's less character roles to fill, there's loads of props, and there's a good chunk of environment stuff, right? So again, if you just pigeonhole yourself down one category, you're leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. Even if, again, you like characters the most, you want to spend all your time in characters, which is great, I love characters, but if you just fill your portfolio with those and don't have any environments or have no prop designs, right, no turnarounds or callouts, then you're leaving all those potential jobs on the table when you actually technically have the skills to be able to do it. So it's a matter personally of what you want and what you think is best for your own trajectory in that case. So of course with this comes a certain amount of creative freedom, which is a huge benefit, right? Because you never kind of stagnate doing one certain thing. You're not going to burn out doing like 60 characters in 2 months. I've done that before. It was kind of fun, but it was exhausting. But yeah, of course, working in multiple disciplines can keep the creative process very refreshing overall. And if you're starting out as a generalist, this is a great way to get that well-rounded amount of experience. It's a great way to broaden your own sense of knowledge, right? Develop that artistic eye and get some hands-on training to cover a variety of tasks. And this is why, like, generally I say with this, a lot of folks start as generalists, and the more years you go at things, the more you do things, the more you can specialize in the long term. So like, let's say if you have a mid-range artist with like 4 to 5 years worth of experience, they find they're really good at environments. This is the position I found myself in. It's like I found like I'm really a lot better at the environment, so I'm just going to start doing more and more and more of those and less characters. So of course, as a result of that, less character jobs started coming in and more environments did. And so basically what happened is I made a nice natural transition from a generalist that did everything, characters, props, environments, to, you know, as a name, I just started getting much more environments long term, and I enjoyed doing the environments. But that's something that took, you know, like 6 years of industry experience and personalization, really just kind of catering my portfolio to switch it to that. I still have those characters, I still have some of those props in my portfolio. There's just more environments so that I can get more environment jobs. So again, it's something that kind of happens to a lot of folks over time, the longer you do that, because then you can build up your reputation, right? You can build up your brand, and then over time, right? Oh, you are that go-to character person. You are that go-to environment person. Because of course, at that point, it doesn't matter. You have some experience, you know some clients, and you've built a reputation. Of course, nowadays in today's market, I'm not going to say no to a lot of jobs, and I'm going to go back to doing them all. But anyways, right, there are advantages of becoming a specialist and starting your journey as a specialist. I think overall, for most folks, that's more of like a pipe dream, and it doesn't necessarily realistically happen overnight. Again, because if you are a specialist, this is automatically kind of implying you have a certain level of expertise and mastery. What does expertise and mastery take? Loads of experience. It's hard to portray that you have loads of experience as a junior artist. Again, you have a huge advantage over anybody if you are the go-to expert in any kind of field, the go-to stylized character guy, the go-to environment lighting specialist, right? Like there's a lot of merit to that. But realistically, it's very hard for most artists to achieve with that amount of experience when starting out. So my general recommendation is on this: if you really do love characters, if you really do love environments, etc., just focus 60 to 70% of your portfolio on your interest, on your strength, but still fill it up. You know, fill that last 30 to 40% with other subjects, so you're still creating a certain amount of opportunity for yourself. Again, having an expertise certainly helps with your branding and your reputation. Often enough, clients and potential employers do seek out specialists to fill certain roles, especially with larger studios, which have much better payouts, right? Like they need X amount of environment folks, X amount of character artists. They're going to just hire you to do your one thing. But if you're working at smaller and mid-sized studios, they're gonna have a much lower budget, so they're not gonna hire 4 different environment artists. They're gonna have one or two artists that just do everything. So again, it's about the type of net that you wanna cast, and it's about the image that you wanna carry of yourself and your own personal brand. But specialists are great about getting into niche markets. Think of like H.R. Geiger, right? Like the alien artist. That dude was better than anyone at drawing sickly, gross, and menacing aliens. But that's basically all he kind of did, was that kind of gothic horror, black and white, very robust detailed art that made him the best go-to person for that, but cut him off from like 95% of the jobs out there. But I mean, he's got a living legacy that no one's ever gonna forget. You gotta always weigh the good and the bad. And of course, one of the last benefits of having a specialized portfolio is that it really does showcase your depth of knowledge. This is something I had experience personally, where I had so many different types of things in my portfolio. I could only go so deep on a lot of those subjects and a lot of those kind of categories. So of course, ultimately, I could only get into the weeds. Like I was never the vehicle specialist. I was never the hard surface specialist, because there's people out there so much better at it. They have an eye for it. They have a design sense for it, because they have so much experience designing vehicles or hard surface weapons. So if a particular client knows, hey, we're working on a particular game and we're going to need a season's worth of weapons and armors for our characters, they're going to go to you if you are really showcasing you have a strength and an interest in that. Whereas if you have all just soft, cuddly characters, or if you have all kind of happy forest environments, they're not going to need you, even if you can do them very, very well. But yeah, to sum up my feelings on this, there are a good number of advantages and disadvantages for being a specialist or a generalist. But from my experience, most folks have the best luck getting their foot in a door, starting out as a generalist, and then with 4 to 5 years of experience can make a natural transition to becoming a specialist with that natural amount of experience they will get from those years working. So, right, that last section, choosing a path, which is best for you? Well, you have to take into account a few key things. Number 1 is your personal interests. Do you have enough mental flexibility to be okay with either doing one type of art, or do you have the creative bandwidth to do both stylized and realistic, to do both cute and horror? Can you combine cute and horror, right? Then you get Hollow Knight. So again, there's so many fine lines that you can cut between and make hybrid versions of all of this. But I would definitely weigh what your personal interests in. So again, I started off because I thought it was more popular. I thought it was better to just have more realistic art. I tried to do more realistic art from 2013 to 16, realized I didn't like that. It wasn't for me. I'm gonna start stylizing stuff. Personally, I came up against a time wall as well. Like I started having children. I had a lot less time to do a lot of the detailed stuff that I used to do by hand. So it was a shorthand way for me to do more stylized work so I could be more productive. And it just turned out I happen to like it a lot more. So the other thing you do want to factor in, of course, is market demand. Is there a demand for a certain aesthetic? Is there a certain demand for characters versus environments for the particular niche you want to go in? Like I said, there's often far less character jobs, a lot more props, a lot more environments. Things are competitive at different levels. And of course, you could have your own individual career goals. Is there a certain company you want to work for? Do you want to work for Pixar doing animation? Or do you want to work for Marvel doing live action keyframes? Or do you want to just build your own game? Become your own business, right? So you want to factor all these things and like draw a nice little Venn diagram, because you're going to want to figure out what your own learning style is. Like personally, do you prefer a more generalized learning approach where you're constantly taking in a wide variety of subjects? Or do you want to just focus more so on one thing, diving very deeply in it, becoming obsessive about what you love? That is also very valid. So these are just some things to consider when you're kind of planning out, your next 6 months. Because focused, intentional training either way usually is more beneficial in the long term than just kind of aimlessly logging in hours at the computer or at your easel, drawing and painting. Of course, as I said before, there is time for play, there is time for unstructured work. And of course, for myself, that's why I had a much sort of slower learning growth, because I just tried so many different things in very unstructured ways. Of course, that led me to be who I am today, and I wouldn't necessarily take that back, but if I wanted to do things quicker and if I knew specifically where I wanted to go, I'd have to plan a little bit better. So being aware of what you're good at, what your interests are, and what the industry needs is a great way to kind of find a nice little sweet spot for what you can kind of work on. All right, but with that said, guys, thanks again for watching the video. Let me know what topics you guys want to see below, and definitely check out Skillshare, 30 days for free using the codes linked below, and boost your skills. I'll catch you guys next time.